Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and yes, I'm reviewing the second James Bond film, and which of course, stars the original slash first James Bond slash 007, the late Sean Connery. That's right, From Russia with Love. Yes, the second James Bond film to ever be released, and literally, because From Russia with Love, came out a year after the first James Bond film, which being Dr. No. And of course, I did do a review on Dr. No, and if you guys want to go check that out. So literally, a year after Dr. No's release, it didn't take MGM that long to, bring us another James Bond film with the original slash first James Bond, Sean Connery. So yeah. From Russia with Love, because, it is a really good, fantastic James Bond film. It didn't disappoint. And also, this was Sean Connery's personal favorite James Bond film out of all of the James Bond films he's done. And yeah, can't underestimate Sean Connery about that, And yeah, because what From Russia with Love had to offer as a movie, yeah, because fantastic. Because remember, keep in mind, the stories of James Bond slash 007, they came straight from a book, from an actual retired spy. And if you guys know this, if you know your James Bond history, and if you are hardcore 007 fans like I am, so yeah. Alright, so as always, read the description / the story. Agent 007 is back in the second installment of the James Bond series, this time battling a secret crime organization known as the Spectre. Russians Rosa Klep and Kronstein are out to snatch a decoding device known as the Lecter, using the ravishing Tanya, I'm not sure if I'm saying that character's name right, I'll have to check and see, to lure Bond into helping them. Bond willingly travels to meet Tanya in Istanbul, I hope I'm saying that too, again, you know me sometimes, where he must rely on his wits to escape with his life in a series of deadly encounters with the enemy. So, the opening to this movie was pretty cool because, well, of course we have the infamous, shot of James Bond walking and he shoots through a hole and blood coming down, yeah. And then we apparently see 007, once again played by the late legendary Sean Connery, who's basically obviously trying to find a bad guy he's going after, and we see one of the main bad guys named Grant, played by the late legendary Robert Shaw. Yeah, Robert Shaw being in a James Bond film. And, a decade after doing this James Bond film, he would go on to be, one of his best roles being Quint from Jaws. Yes. Yeah, of course I had to mention it. So Grant is on, 007's tail, and at one point, Grant sneaks up behind him and strangles him, and apparently you think that 007 is, dead or something. But it turns out to be all, a practice mode or something like that, for Grant, and, if he is to take down and defeat James Bond. And it was somebody, wearing a practical mask, like an actual mask of 007's face. Like, oh my gosh, they're, killing one of their own to do this. Well, I mean, it's how some villains work. And then with the opening credits, with every James Bond movie, I think aside from Dr. No, because they always have weird and interesting, bizarre opening credits, you know what I mean? And with this, I mean, it's a bunch of, belly dancers, and with, a projection of the opening credits, projected on them, on their arms and their their stomachs, as they're belly dancing. That's, again, what a way to open, a James Bond movie like this, don't you think? And so we see Spectre itself, and one of the main bad guys who's obviously in charge of Spectre by the name of Number One. We never see his face. I mean, yeah, first off, they go by Number 1, 2, and 3. Number One, assumingly, because he was... it is a bit confusing, because as always, I have the tablet and IMDb pulled up. The main, bad guy, and he was, he had a fluffy white cat, because, yeah, we all know, because in the James Bond franchise. He was played by Anthony Dawson, but apparently, I guess the character's name was Ernest Blofeld, I think, as question mark. And if you've seen this movie, and if you've seen the credits, yeah, it is a bit confusing. I mean, I think it's probably obvious that they want, for this movie, and by the time that this came out, they wanted to keep, I guess the actor and the character a complete mystery, and assumingly, for until the next James Bond movie. Which, yeah, I think, yeah, it all makes sense, yeah. And so, yeah, and the other two members, working alongside with Number One, top agents for him, Number Two, named Rosa Klebb, being played by the late Lotte Lenya. I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure I'm getting her full name right. I don't know. And then there was also Number Three, his name being Kronstein, played by the late Vladek Sheybal. Yeah, Sheybal. And, basically, Number One having a little conversation with the two about, their mission and what to do and so on, and about the device and to hire this Russian girl. And, they're assigned, especially Rosa, is assigned to oversee the mission and to ensure Grant can carry out Bond's assassination at the right moment. Yeah, because Grant is hired to take down Bond, and they, to set up a trap, and Kelp recruits a chipper cipher clerk, I got that right, who doesn't yet know that Klebb is no longer working for the Soviets, and the consulate, and Titania, I think I am saying the character's name right, but I also recall when watching the movie, Bond said her name a bit differently, but, just bear with me, and hey, bear with the character Bond, so And Titania was played by Daniela Bianchi, if I'm saying her last name right, and apparently her voice was dubbed because she could hardly speak English, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what I read, so, although, I mean, because I guess, sometimes it's not a problem. I mean, this has happened before in some of the earliest movies, so, and Titania does not know that whom she meets with, which being Rosa Klebb, that she is working for Spectre. And obviously if Titania knew, then of course, she would not want to do this, but probably, she would have been killed, So she is hired and, to unwittingly assist in the plan, tricking her into believing, because they tricked Titania into believing she is still working for Smersh. That's the name, yeah. Kelp tells Romanova that her job is to seduce Bond, which she accepts reluctantly. Yeah. And then we, of course, get the introduction of the actual James Bond. And literally, because obviously this takes place sometime after, the first James Bond film, because we see him and his first love interest, Sylvia Trench, once again played by Inusi Gayson, if I'm saying her full name right. And originally, she was going to continue on appearing in the Bond films as Bond's, current and main girlfriend, and she would just, throw a fit and so on whenever, Bond would be called to more missions and so on. But apparently, this was her last appearance as Sylvia, and, well, pretty much the last time we would see the character of Sylvia, which, yeah, I mean, I guess, it's not a big deal, but I don't know, because, it just, it's kind of like, why did they not let her continue on being in this? I don't know, it's what they chose, and how they wrote the story and so on, and, what to do with the character of, Sylvia. So, yeah, that's understandable. Again, Bond is called in by M, because of a mission that M has for him, and he goes. Bond arrives back to London, and he's informed that Romanova has requested Bond's help to defect to the West in exchange for providing British intelligence a Lecter. Yeah, exactly as Kronstein predicted. M suspects a trap but decides to honor Romanova's request before departing, and Bond is given a special attached case by Q. And this is the first time where Q is played by the late Desmond Lanunin, if I'm saying his last name right. Yeah. So again, this is his first time playing Q, and he, for a long time, would be, the current actor playing Q until, his, tragic death. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah, and Q just getting a small appearance, and yeah, that's pretty much, that's how it is in some of the James Bond films that he's in, just making a few appearances here and there, and giving Bond, some latest, weapons and gadgets that he'll have to take along with him, whichever mission he goes to. And Q gives him a briefcase containing defensive gadgets and an Armalite AR-7 sniper rifle, and to help on his assignment. And yeah, and it's a pretty cool briefcase, and there's a certain way to, open it, for a secret part in the briefcase. Yeah, Q's the man. He knows how to make some pretty fantastic contraptions, and even, say, to fool and trick the bad guys, whomever, comes face-to-face with Bond. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, doesn't disappoint. And yeah, Bond does arrive to Istanbul. I think I'm getting that right. Bear with me still. And Bond works alongside with the head of MI6's branch in the city, Ali Karim Bey. And yeah, he was played by the late Pedro Armendáriz. Again, bear with me how I pronounce some of these names, while he awaits waits word from Romanova. Yeah, and throughout this movie, Bond being in Istanbul, and to speed things up, because his interactions with Ali Karim, because Ali Karim was a pretty good character, and I don't know, because I never thought of this. If anybody would have suspected at first that he might turn against James Bond or anything like that. But no, because, he's a very nice guy, and he has a big family. He's got a lot of sons, and, and even, say, they attend this, gypsy dance party or whatever, and basically a gypsy, girl is supposed to marry to, I think one of Karim's sons, I want to say, and, also... later on, James Bond encountering Titania at the hotel he's staying at, and I tell you, because Spectre really gets to Titania, but especially to Bond, because, you know, Titania, of course, has no idea that it's really Spectre whom she's working with, and of course, you know, she would, of course, never work with Spectre, and she really knows nothing, and Bond, you know, just completely being blind by what's going on until very later on in the movie, of course, they all start to figure it out, especially with Grant coming face-to-face with Bond. And yeah, because the many times where Grant, you know, again, being hired to assassinate Bond, but never seems to, you know, get to Bond, but also even Karam is, you know, trying to be assassinated as well, even at the, like, gypsy party with, at first, like, belly dancers, and then, you know, we see two gypsy girls fighting on who is to marry a son, you know, and, then, of course, all hell breaks loose because, you know, the bad guys come in and pretty much it's Spectre. And, you know, James Bond and Karam, like, taking down the members of Spectre, and Grant happening to be there. And even Grant does kind of help Bond a little bit by taking out some bad guys who try to get to him. And, yeah... And someone who was trying to assassinate Karam, well, good for Karam, because later on he wants to, you know, take the shot, and by putting, like, the gun right on top of 007's shoulder, and yeah, he does get him, like, right outside of a hotel, and with this giant billboard of, like, a girl, and, like, there's, like, a window that came from the lips, I want to say, or whatever it was, like, yeah, and they made a comment, and it is funny about, like, that giant girl on that hotel, like, it's pretty funny, and the interactions between Bond and Titania, because, first off, let me just say, like, as I said, like, the character of Sylvia, like, this being her last appearance, you know, because it's like, I guess like it's left for us to guess that probably, you know, Bond and Sylvia, they parted ways and so on, because, well, you know, Bond gets together with Titania, especially at the end of the movie. So yeah, like, the romance between Bond and Titania is pretty good, and again, because, you know, Titania, you know, tricking Bond into something else. Like, again, she has no idea still, you know, that she's really working with Spectre. And again, because Rosa is pretending to be someone else and not, you know, come straight from Spectre. And then, of course, like, there's a moment where, yeah, they got the device, the Lecter. Even Bond was questioning Titania at one point about what the device is and how big it is, and, like, she's saying that it's, you know, it's about the same size as a typewriter, and basically Bond is recording what she has to say, questioning her, and it would go straight back to London for M and everybody else to hear. And it's kind of embarrassing for Bond because Titania, you know, can't help but talk about, you know, the romantic stuff that happened between her and Bond, and of course it's embarrassing for Bond because M and everybody else back at the headquarters, you know, they hear this, and oh my gosh, like, you know, poor Bond, you know, and I'm pretty sure, because, like, even they, like, they should know, you know, the romance that Bond would have for any girl he comes face to face with, you know, and then there's, like, a big explosion that happens, and obviously, again, because they get the device, and, you know, both Bond, Titania, and Karam tagging along with them, they get out of there, head on a train, and head back to London, yeah. And even at one point, Vince, you know, Vince is in this movie too, you know, that location, Vince. And hey, the same location as it is in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And, you know, talk about a connection with James Bond and Indiana Jones. Some locations that some of those movies from Indiana Jones and James Bond, the locations that they've been to, whether if it's like Vince or some other place, you know, that I can't really think of, you get my point, so yeah. So again, Bond and Karam, yeah, they made their plans to, you know, steal the Lecter. They successfully did. And yeah, Titania with them, because they got on the Orient Express. The Orient Express. What a coincidence. If you get the joke. So, once on board, Karam discovers a Soviet secret officer tailed them. Yeah, basically they were on, he was on their tail. He forced Bond to help him subdue them, while Karam remains with him to prevent him escaping. I wouldn't say, like, Karam was forcing Bond, just needed him to help him, like, take care of him and so on. I mean, after all, because, you know, that Soviet security officer is, of course, a part of this, yeah. And Karam, like, just sitting in there waiting for Bond to come back and so on. And even Bond told Titania, to, lock the door and knock 3 times, because, yeah, that's a way of her knowing that it's Bond knocking 3 times. And so Bond, he returns to Romanova to wait for their rendezvous, I don't know if I'm saying that word right, but with one of Karam's men, and Karam was supposed to stop the train midway at the point where his men were supposed to meet him. But however, Grant kills Karam, and, I should have seen it coming, because pretty much, like, any character like Karam, you just think, like, and in these kind of movies, especially James Bond, where you're like, oh my gosh, like, he's most likely gonna get killed. That didn't hit me earlier when watching this movie, and it's a shame, because, and obviously, because Grant, still on Bond's tail, and just hopping on the Orient Express, and you should have seen it coming, him killing Karam, as well as the Soviet officer, and that forced Bond to remain on the train and question Romanova's motive. And that's where Bond does question Titania about this, but of course, she really has no part in this of what's going on, especially with Spectre, and my gosh, because back then, in in movies of the 60s, like, you see a man slapping a woman, well, that was the 60s for you, so just, you bear with me, And then, because when the train does arrive in Belgrade, Belgrade, I think I got that right, Bond passes the news to one of Karam's sons, because, one of Karam's sons was waiting for them, and, it's unfortunate, because, Karam, he had a big family and a lot of sons. That's really unfortunate. And Bond gives one of his sons specific instructions to inform M, to let M know what Bond's going to be doing and so on. And because he gave gave him instructions to travel to, to Zagreb, if I'm saying that right, and rendezvous with a British agent named Nash. However, the man he meets is actually Grant, who has already killed Nash. Yeah, that's right, because, he killed Nash and pretended to be Nash. Like, Bond had never met Nash before, so it's obvious, And so Grant pretending to be Nash, and I think, because this was the first time that we do hear Grant talking, because throughout the film, he never said a word until now, pretending to be Nash. And of course, Bond falls for it, but I think knowing Bond, he starts to suspect something with, this Nash guy. And even when, Nash, but it's really Grant, meeting Titania, and all 3 of them are at dinner, and even at one point, because, and also because, Grant pretending to be Nash, like, was talking with Bond on, what was to come next and so on, and with the Lecter, etc. And during dinner, because Grant, as Nash, like, put a couple of, like, pills in Titania's drink to conk her out. Like, thank goodness, like, she didn't get killed. It just, like, these pills were just to conk her out for the night, just to feel all dreary and so on. She didn't feel so good because she was feeling so tired and literally just zoinked, you know what I'm saying? And then, of course, sure enough, Bond knows that it's not Nash and it's really Grant. And basically Grant gives out a lot to Bond on, what's been happening, and with Titania being involved and so on, and with Spectre, and of course Bond has the briefcase that Q lent him, and a pretty, epic fight between Grant and Bond, and shooting off one of the light bulbs in, the one of the rooms that they were staying in on the Orient Express. And of course, Bond successfully kills Grant, and the thing with Grant, because he has this device where he can strangle his victims, and he was this close to actually killing Bond, but sure enough, with the briefcase, it happened to have a little knife, and using it to stab Grant, and of course Bond this time strangles Grant, and thus Grant is, boom, defeated. Yeah, that's it for Grant. And that's when, there was, because at one point, the Orient Express had to stop because a truck was in the way, and this is where Bond and Titania are supposed to get off, and this guy in the truck, because, tricking the Orient Express to stop, and basically the guy in the truck was to wait for Grant. But this time, Bond takes the truck guy hostage, and putting Titania in the back of the truck with all these flowers, and she'll be safe there until she wakes up in the morning, sleeping peacefully on flowers. And, because the next day, and with the truck driving, and, Bond having the Lecter, a helicopter, obviously a part of Spectre, comes in, and it's that same kind of helicopter that was used for the Batcopter, for the 60s Batman. And also, alongside with the Lecter, there was a piece of film, and it was film of Romanova and Bond, which, Romanov being Titania's, nickname, I guess you could say, them making love, and a letter from Romanova saying that Bond has to marry her or else she will expose him. So there was a film reel that was with the Lecter as well, and with the helicopter at one point showing up, because the helicopter, I assume, was supposed to meet up with the truck, because, with that truck driver and Grant, but the helicopter starts to suspect something, and the truck is not stopping, and, one of the copter pilots, starts throwing, grenades down there, and Bond gets out of the truck and has the helicopter follow him and / chase him, and this was pretty epic, because Bond knew exactly what to do, because he pulled out, the rifle gun that he had, I think, it is the Lecter, I'm pretty sure, or part of the briefcase, whatever, but, using it to shoot right at the one, helicopter co-pilot who's throwing the grenades, shoot right at him, wound him, and causing him to drop the grenade in the helicopter, and boom, it explodes. Oh, that was clever for Bond right there. Oh, that was really cool, because, hey, he knows what he's doing. Whenever things like this happen, he knows exactly how to defeat, these bad guys, whoever he comes face to face with, especially Spectre. And then, a little bit later, and to speed things up a little, they do get on a boat, and they take the truck driver with them, but of course, Bond does let him go, basically just throwing him out into the ocean, and, when he swims to shore. So, bye-bye, truck driver, you're left on your own swimming in the ocean, in the middle of, nowhere, just, in the middle of the ocean. And then boats start popping up, and they start to chase Bond and Titania. And there are these barrels that are, obviously they are explosive, and of course, Bond knows what to do. He lets loose the barrels, and, causing them to be shot at and explode, and, huge fires, and, hitting on the boats, which, I suspect, it's the it's the boats of the Spectre crew, and they're getting burned, and like some of them are getting burned, but you know, they jump into the water. One more explosion from one of the boats, and then we come back to number one, who, you know, is pissed off about, you know, the disastrous failure, you know, of the plans that were made, and he at one point has number three. Well, you think it's number two that's going to be executed, but no, like apparently he executes number three. He spared number two. Yeah, he had Kronstein, who is number three, executed for his plans' disastrous failure, as the organization promised to sell back the Lecter to the Russians. Yeah, the Russians. And Klepp is ordered, and again, Klepp being number two, as she's referred to, she's ordered to recover it and kill Bond. And yeah, Klepp, she is there pretending to be like, you know, a housekeeper, stuff like that. She reaches the pair, and while they are resting in a hotel in Vance, yeah, because they're in Vance, and yeah, that's another thing, because with Vance, like, I forgot to mention this, like, they're, like, the opening to this, another part of this movie in the opening, because we see Kronstein playing chess, and his opponent playing chess, it wasn't him. Like, I even checked and saw while watching this movie, and because I thought, is that who I think it is? But no. His Kronstein's opponent playing chess, he reminded me of a young David Bradley, you know, Mr. Filch from Harry Potter. That's what he looked like to me, but no, it's not a young David Bradley, so, and just so you know. So again, at the hotel in Vance, Bond and Titania are resting, and Kelp, you know, sneaks into their room disguised as, well, I said housekeeper, but maid. Maid and housekeeper, I think kind of the same thing, yeah. And Kelp orders Romanova to leave the room, and while she's holding Bond at gunpoint, but, of course, you should have seen this coming, you know, the same goes for me. Romanova, and her real name being Titania, well, she comes back into the hotel room and tackles Kelp. And, by the way, because, like, with Spectre, because they have, like, these pointy knives sticking out of their foot, and I think, yeah, because, like, there has to be some poison to them, because when number one had number three executed, yeah, because by a foot, and that killed him, because, again, there must be some poison that's in that, you know, pointy knife in the shoe that you know, when he's stabbed, it just kills him instantly. And yeah, because Kelp was trying to do the same thing to Bond, but of course, Titania, she got the gun from Kelp, and sure enough, she shoots and kills Klepp. Yeah, Klepp. Did I say Kelp? Klepp? Yeah. And, yeah, so again, Klepp is defeated, and, yep, a happy ending for both Bond and Titania, as they spend some time on a romantic boat ride through the town of Vance, and with its rivers and so on. And Bond still has the film reel, and as they start to make out, he throws it into the water, and he does a little wave goodbye to it. And that's how the movie ends right there. We get the end, and it teases the next Bond film that we will be seeing with Sean Connery as 007/James Bond in Goldfinger. Yes. And, you know, just like with From Russia with Love coming out a year after the first Bond film, Dr. No, Goldfinger coming out a year after this one. And it was really amazing that, you know, with the first three Bond films, they came out, you know, in, you know, 3 years, like, in a row. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was amazing. Also, there are a couple of fun facts I'd like to mention, that, you know, some pretty interesting ones. Like, one where, apparently, the director of From Russia with Love, Terrence Young, yeah, he disliked Daniela Bianchi's legs. And again, Daniela, who played Titania. Like, why did he dislike her legs? Like, that's strange. Like, why? Because I don't get it. Like, and if it was ever really established as to why. So again, apparently he disliked her legs, and he used a stand-in for the scene where Bond spies on the Russian embassy in the Insta loop of the Periscope. Yeah, because there was a scene where he and Kerem, like, they look through a Periscope. Yeah, and, like, you know, he sees her legs. Again, why? Why did the director... That's just... I'm just saying, that's just weird. Don't you think? Like, it is. Also, it's thanks to, you know, From Russia with Love that it convinced Steven Spielberg to cast Robert Shaw in Jaws. And not to mention, Spielberg, you know, he wanted to direct a James Bond film, but that, of course, never happened. But sure enough, his good friend George Lucas told him that he had something better, and which, of course, being Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the rest is history. Yep. And also, this was the final James Bond movie to be released during, you know, the creator/writer of the James Bond stories, you know, the books, Ian Fleming, because, yeah, unfortunately, he would pass away 1 month before Goldfinger was released. So, yeah, I mean, wow, because, you know, at least he got to live to see the first 2 successful James Bond movies to, you know, happen and for him to see, and no doubt about it that he was very pleased with how the first 2 films turned out, and no doubt about it, he would be very pleased/happy/proud of what the future had in store for 007. From Russia with Love, the second installment of the James Bond movie series. Like, it's not a disappointment. It's a fantastic James Bond movie. And again, as I said, this was Sean Connery's personal favorite of the Bond movies and, you know, that he ever did. And because I really think it shows. Because again, as I said, it's not a disappointment and it's a really good James Bond movie. And again, for this being the second James Bond movie ever made, you know, it's got a lot of great action, some pretty good funny moments, emotional moments, and romantic moments, of course, you know, when it comes to James Bond and, you know, his ladies. And, you know, and I almost forgot to mention that because at one point he was given the 2, like, gypsies that were wrestling, like, you know, which one he wants to choose, and, you know, he said, like, it's gonna take some time, and he just kind of for a little bit, like, was with both of them. He, like, chose both of them. So I just thought I'd throw that out because I almost forgot about that. And it was pretty funny. Like, they did attempt to bond, like, to his wounds and so on. And not to mention what happened in Dr. No, because on his back, like, he does have a scar, you know, as even, like, you know, his first love interest noticed, and even Titania. Yeah. Yeah, so again, From Russia with Love, like, it didn't disappoint, and just how this Bond movie turned out, just fantastic. You know, as I said, the action, adventure, the romance, the funny moments, and the emotional moments, and the music. Of course, the music does not disappoint when it comes to anything Bond. And I'm giving From Russia with Love 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars from Russia with Love. And what about you guys? What did you think of From Russia with Love itself? Is it your favorite of the Bond movies and, you know, any of the James Bond movies that starred Sean Connery as 007/James Bond himself? What did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like as always. So, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of From Russia with Love, the second installment of the James Bond movie series. More review videos are on the way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video/review. And stay tuned later tonight because the next film I'm going to be reviewing that comes straight from Disney, well, let's just say it's about a fox who robs from the rich and gives to the poor. Oodalali. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Stay tuned for that. And happy anniversary to From Russia with Love. And until my review of Goldfinger, take care and peace out.